United States Attorney for the Middle District of Pennsylvania. Joining me at the podium are Special Agent in charge of the Philadelphia Field Office of the FBI, Mike Harpster, Resident Agent in charge, Bill Vigorito. Our lead case agent, Joan Moon, is here. We are also joined by Captain Pete Katowski from the Pennsylvania State Police and Lieutenant Tim Gilhooly with the Pennsylvania State Police. A resident of northeastern Pennsylvania can be forgiven for feeling like we've all been here before. But unfortunately, while the players have changed, the song remains the same. We are here today, as you know, to discuss an extensive FBI investigation into public corruption. This investigation has spanned multiple years and involves substantial personal interviews, electronic surveillance, visual surveillance, extensive record and document reviews, as well as other investigative techniques. The investigation is ongoing. Today's events specifically deal with Scranton city government and activity within the city of Scranton. This morning in federal court in Williamsport, former Scranton Mayor William Courtright entered a guilty plea before Chief Judge Christopher Connor to a 3-count information. Courtright pleaded guilty to 1 count of conspiracy, 1 count of attempted extortion by color of official right, and 1 count of bribery. Courtright's maximum possible prison time is up to 35 years, plus a maximum possible fine of $750,000, as well as a term of supervised release and an assessment. As part of the plea, Courtright also agreed to forfeit $36,705 to the United States. There is no agreement as to any sentence in this case, and Judge Connor will impose sentence after a pre-sentence investigation and the opportunity for both the United States and Courtright to weigh in. In court this morning, Courtright admitted to the following conduct. Now I'm going to go through a fairly extensive recitation of facts because I firmly believe it's important that these facts be out on the public record. These facts were all stated in court this morning, and Mr. Courtright admitted to this statement of facts. As I indicated, Courtright is charged with 3 offenses: conspiracy to commit offenses against the United States, attempted extortion under color of official right, and bribery concerning programs receiving federal funds. The evidence was gathered during a multi-year FBI undercover operation. The evidence included secretly recorded audio and video of Courtright obtaining cash payoffs. Count 1 is the conspiracy. From 2014 through January 9 of 2019, Courtright had an agreement with others to use his position as mayor to corruptly solicit and demand things of value from other persons. At Courtright's direction, employees of the city of Scranton, members of the Friends of Bill Courtright Campaign Committee, and others targeted vendors to solicit and demand money for Courtright and Friends of Bill Courtright. These vendors were targeted because they had contracts with the city of Scranton and did business in the city. Courtright accepted things of value, solicited and demanded from the vendors, knowing that the things of value were given to him to influence and reward him in connection with business transactions and a series of transactions in the city of Scranton. For example, Courtright admitted dealings with the president of a company that maintained a contract with the city of Scranton for the collection of delinquent taxes and refuse fees. He accepted thousands of dollars of cash and in purported campaign contributions from that person and others acting on behalf of that person in a quid pro quo exchange for his corrupt agreement to maintain the city's contract with company number 1. During his tenure as mayor, Courtright had an agreement with persons associated with company number 1 and with intermediaries working on his, that is Courtright's, behalf to secretly receive funds from the president of that company. Thousands of dollars were transferred to Courtright's campaign through layers of conduit contributors. These conduit contributors, that is, other people making the contribution on behalf of the leader of that company, were used to conceal the true source of the funds, the president of that company. Courtright accepted these funds knowing that the funds were given to corruptly influence his official action to maintain the contract with company number one. There were several objects of the overarching conspiracy. One was the extortion under color of official right. Courtright had an agreement with others to use the power and authority of his office to obtain money, property, and other things of value to which he did not have a right. He agreed to accept these things of value, knowing that these things of value were being given in return for taking, withholding, and influencing official acts. The members of the agreement included vendors who had business with the city and who did business with the city. In and around 2018, another individual who had business pending before licensing and regulatory authorities with the city of Scranton made an agreement with Courtright. Part of that business concerned a multi-million-dollar development of property. This project required official acts from public officials employed by the city and under the authority of Courtright. This person sought Courtright's assistance to influence these official acts. At Courtright's request, this person caused renovations to be performed at Courtright's business property, the Summit Karate Club. This person also caused other services to be performed at Courtright's home, including lawn care and home repairs. Courtright did not pay for the renovation and the services. Rather, Courtright and that person concealed the non-payment and caused false payment records to be created. Courtright agreed to corruptly accept these renovations and services, knowing that he was not entitled to these things of value. That agreement involved an understanding that the renovations and services that were performed to influence Courtright's official actions. Another object of the conspiracy was attempted extortion by fear of economic harm. From 2014 to 2018, Courtright agreed with others to use threats of economic harm to cause vendors doing business with the city of Scranton to provide things of value, including cash and campaign contributions to Courtright. For example, another person who was the owner and manager of a company that developed commercial and residential properties in the city needed occupancy permits, contractors' licenses, and other official authorizations from the city, which person number two requested from the Office of Licensing, Inspections, and Permits. This person had been a friend and supporter of a former mayor. Shortly after taking office in 2014, Courtright directed one or more representatives of the city of Scranton to take official action to temporarily halt development projects of this person, since that person had not provided financial support to his campaign. In fact, a number of that person's projects were halted. The projects were permitted to proceed only after that person agreed to provide financial support to Courtright. There were overt acts done in furtherance of the conspiracy. In a recorded conversation with one of the co-conspirators, Courtright responded to an apology for not attending an event, an inaugural festivity. Courtright said, "I don't worry about you coming, I worry about the money." Other times, Courtright used intermediaries to communicate his demands for things of value from vendors. In many instances, Courtright directed City of Scranton employees to solicit funds from vendors, subject to inspection by city employees. For example, in 2018, in a recorded telephone call, Courtright explained how he utilized a city inspector to solicit funds from business persons who did business with the city. He explained how the vendor had a lucrative contract with the city and that the contract work was not sent to other vendors. He complained that vendor did not give a large enough campaign contribution. Quote, "He makes a tremendous amount of money off the city. I said he has to pay. He gives me $2,500. It's actually $5,000. He's got to pay. I don't ship that out to anybody else." He tied official contracting decisions as mayor to amounts of money that vendors paid. Courtright also used intermediaries to collect cash from vendors and others who sought to corruptly influence him. He repeatedly offered the services of an intermediary who was willing to accept cash on his behalf. For example, in 2018, in a recorded conversation between Courtright and another person, Courtright expressed reluctance to take $2,500 in cash from that person. He asked that person if the cash could be given to a named intermediary instead of directly to him. Courtright explained, "How about I let you give it to the intermediary? You and I don't touch it. He's a rock. He would die before he would tell anybody about it." The evidence uncovered during the investigation established that Courtright received, directly or through intermediaries, cash payments totaling more than $50,000 from more than 10 business persons who sought to corruptly influence him during his years as mayor. Other business persons provided things of value to Courtright other than cash to influence and reward him in connection with his official acts. For example, in 2018, he obtained free use of a beach house. Courtright and other members of the conspiracy engaged in overt acts related to the continuation of the contract previously mentioned for collection of delinquent taxes. On July 28, 2017, a $1,500 campaign contribution payable to the campaign fund from a conduit. August 2017, $1,500 in cash on behalf of that person to maintain the contract. At that time, Courtright expressed concern that the person running that business might be working with, quote, the feds, unquote. Courtright suggested the cash should be given to an intermediary who would then give it to Courtright. Regarding that person, Courtright asked, "Is he going to sing that he gave you if he ever gets nailed?" After being assured that person number one would not implicate Courtright, he said, "If they say you gave it to me, I'm going to say you never gave me a dime." Courtright was assured the person would not say anything. He then took the $1,500 cash and put it in his pocket. August 29, 2017, $1,000 cash given directly to Courtright, put in his pocket. November 2017, a $4,000 cash payment directed to an unnamed intermediary in whom Courtright expressed great trust. Quote, "He's a rock, he's rock solid." Later that day, the intermediary accepted the cash and immediately delivered it to Courtright. May 2018, $2,000 cash given to the intermediary, later delivered to Courtright. Again in May 2018, $3,000 cash given to the intermediary, delivered to Courtright. January 4th, 2018, Courtright met with another person at a deli in Scranton and explained that Courtright expected $5,000 more from that person. He complained campaign contributions previously given were not enough. During that meeting, Courtright was told by the person that he had $2,500 in cash ready to give but didn't want it reported anywhere, and that he needed assistance to obtain a license from the Scranton Bureau of Licensing, since that person did not have the appropriate letters of recommendation to obtain the license. Courtright agreed to help that person obtain the license. In the mayor's office, Courtright was given $2,500 in cash and $2,500 in a check to his campaign. He took the cash and the check. During the same meeting, Courtright called the city employee involved in the license request, asked if he was alone, and upon being told that the employee was alone, directed the employee to assist the person seeking the license. He suggested that the necessary reference letters could be forged. The license was approved for that person. No letters of reference were ever provided. The person was not qualified to receive the license, but received it in return for the payment to the mayor. In July 2018, a variety of concerns were discussed related to that person's business in the city. During that meeting, Courtright accepted another $2,500 in cash from that person. As has been reported, on January 9th, 2019, agents of the FBI conducted an interview of Courtright in the mayor's office wherein he denied ever getting cash from anyone, not one person, denied using any intermediary to accept cash on his behalf. After concluding that interview, members of the FBI conducted a search of Courtright's home. In the basement, hidden in a safe, FBI agents recovered approximately $29,450 in cash. Included in that cash was identifiable currency paid to Courtright and the intermediary by persons assisting the FBI. The evidence as it relates to count 2, attempted extortion under color of official right, relates to the payment taken, the $2,500 cash, $2,500 of the campaign contribution in order to obtain that license. It was a quid pro quo arrangement. The money was paid, the license was granted. Regarding the $2,500 cash payment, Courtright took and obtained the payment in quid pro quo for his official actions. Again, that was a license for which the person was not qualified but was able to obtain it by paying the mayor. Finally, count 3, federal program bribery. The evidence there relates to the cash payment, $4,000 cash payment delivered to the intermediary on behalf of the holder of the contract for collection of delinquent taxes and refuse fees. There's more evidence and more allegations admitted to by Courtright this morning in court, but that's a fairly extensive flavor of the evidence that was put on the record that underlies the criminal information that was filed in this case. Now, when discussing any public corruption investigation, there are some important points to remember. First and foremost, in the United States, we do not conscript people into elected office. No one is forced to do the job. And presumably, individuals who run for office and get elected know what the compensation is. I'm speaking now to every public official within the sound of my voice. If it is not enough for you, get out now. Using public office for personal financial gain is a crime, plain and simple. People here have seen too much of it. And to people who want to do business with a government entity, or provide services to a government entity, or avail themselves of a service provided by a government entity, the idea that they should have to take any action or pay any amount or offer political support is offensive to the basic ideals of this country. In this county, in this commonwealth, in this country, our elected officials work for us, not the other way around. As I stated at the outset, this investigation is extensive and it is ongoing. The United States Department of Justice, the United States Attorney's Office, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, our state and local partners, all of us, we are willing to do the work. We are willing to put in the time. We have nothing but time. I'm going to turn over the microphone now to my friend, Special Agent in Charge Mike Harpster, who will give you a brief statement, and then we'll hear from Captain Gutowski. Mike.
I will be brief.
Yeah.
So once again, we are here to get announced another crack on that liberty built democracy through public corruption. All too often, we see public servants such as the defendant use their office to the benefits of themselves, and Bill Courtright used the city to its grant. He traded on his office in exchange for money and other valuable favors. He wielded his official powers for his own benefit, when he should have been focused on his community. The FBI and our partners will never stop seeking to bring justice to corrupt public officials who so badly betray the public trust. To that end, we and our partners at the Pennsylvania State Police and the IRS have launched a task force specifically aimed to take down public corruption in the Northeast Pennsylvania region. We're working on behalf of the people who expect and deserve honest services from all their elected officials. As one can imagine, in cases like this, multi-year cases require extreme large amount of resources, time, and effort. Through our partnership, we hope to bring many more cases, unfortunately. I'd personally like to thank Dave Fried and his staff in the U.S. Attorney's Office for their help and assistance in prosecuting this case, Colonel Vanchik and his troopers for their assistance, and of course my staff, with the special agents and support staff that actually ran the investigation, specifically Special Agent Joseph Noon, Special Agent Larry Whitehead, Special Agent Joseph Grant.
Thanks, Mike. Next we have Captain Pete Gutowski from True Bar in Duncan.
Thank you. Public corruption cannot and will not be tolerated in our communities and our government. The Pennsylvania State Police stands ready and committed to partner with the Federal Bureau of Investigation and the U.S. Attorney's Office in this collective effort. The formation of this specialized joint task force will not only enable investigators to specifically target and aggressively pursue crimes of public corruption occurring within northeastern Pennsylvania, but will also help maintain and advance public trust and confidence in our elected officials and our community leaders. The state police is prepared to allocate any necessary resources and services in pursuit of this mission. Thank you.
Okay, questions?
Will there be anyone else charged?
The investigation's ongoing.
How many intermediaries are these? Half a dozen?
No, it's, I think fewer than 5.
Are you looking into his time when he was tax collector of the city of Scranton?
I'm not gonna comment on the specifics of the investigation.
Talk about others. These are the buzzwords of the information. Others, co-conspirators, business persons, intermediaries. Are you gonna identify these people?
Well, it's the practice of the Justice Department, and I think appropriately so, not to identify people in filings or information unless we're prepared to charge them.
And didn't these people commit crimes?
That's what the rest of the investigation is focusing on.
So the vehicle, which they learned these people. I mean, obviously, a lot of people in this room probably have some pretty good ideas about who.
Certainly, and I understand that, and I think that's a completely legitimate feeling and question. But it's incumbent upon us not to put those names out there unless we're prepared to charge those people.
Right, and I just want to say, I mean, the corruption task force and all that stuff, it's great news, it's kind of what we've been waiting for a long time. But it seems that to just take down Courtright, these other people are part of the conspiracy, they were active in it, and, if we had this, in the previous corruption trial, we had some companies survive, they're back, Guardian #1, and they're back doing business again, and it really is, it seems that if you're gonna really root out the corruption, you're gonna take all the players out, it's kind of a move, they got all the germs. There's a lot of germs here.
Right, well, so we have to make sure that we have, if we're gonna go forward with charges, that we have appropriate evidence. This is, it goes a little bit to the conversation that we've previously had, which is, in a case like this, at least as long as I'm United States Attorney, where I feel the most pressure is when we have an elected official that is in office receiving a public salary that we know is committing crimes. So the focus there is always going to be on that elected official, so we can take action against that person and hopefully have that person removed. We were able to obtain that as part of this plea agreement. Now I think that allows us to focus on perhaps some other parts of the investigation.
That's right, I just want to move forward.
Sure.
As we speak, though, there are government employees who are part of this conspiracy, who are right now collecting public paychecks, they're still in positions, to cause public harm, or they're at least still collecting public paychecks, and they're part of a criminal conspiracy.
Right, that's understood. And of course, the question there is, did those people share a criminal intent, or were they doing as they were told by an official who had power over their job? So that's what we have to ferret out during the course of an investigation.
Say what the inception of the investigation was.
So there were actually 2 or 3 threads of other investigations, and also one specific public complaint, one person who came to us, and that, I won't call it a tip because it was more than a tip. It was information provided, but that information on top of these other threads led us to where we are today.
Can you tell us when that was?
Well, the other investigations were ongoing, and that the person who came forward, I think, was sometime during 2017.
Can you tell us if one of those other investigations involved the sewer sale?
I'm not going to comment on what those investigations were.
Attorney
Go
Freed,
ahead.
most of us in this room are familiar with Keys for Cash. Less than a decade ago, we had 40-some people indicted in 2 counties. And this was taking place, I mean, what's your reaction to the mentality of, here we go again, and some of those folks who were indicted 7, 8, 9 years ago are still in prison?
Right. So, Andy, I think it's a great question. I mean, I struggled with that in trying to determine what to say here today. What to say to the citizens of this area who are seeing this happen again. As you know, I live in the Harrisburg area, but I've been in the prosecution business for a long time. So I followed and have worked with this office even before I assumed this position. So I followed very closely what's happened here. And I really did struggle with what to say. What do we say to the citizens here, the people that get up every day, go to work, pay their taxes, just want to be left alone to raise their families, to be safe, and to have, frankly, an expectation that the people that we put into public office are going to work for us and not for them. And as you can see, I get a little worked up about it because it upsets me to no end. And I'm so proud, frankly, of the work of the U.S. Attorney's Office, the work that came before I ever set foot in the door, the great work of the FBI agents and our local partners to go after these people. Because you know what? You can imagine, can't you, that if you're trying to do business in Scranton or you're trying to avail yourself of a city service, you know, and you need to do this. This is your livelihood, or you need that service. What are you going to do? Are you going to go and put yourself out there and be asked to wear a wire and do all the things that we require people to do? Or are you going to maybe pay that $200 so that you can get something done? Well, what we want to eliminate is anybody feeling like they ever have to do that. And that those people can have confidence, whether it's Luzerne County, Lackawanna County, Schuylkill County, anywhere in this district, frankly, anywhere, as I said, in this Commonwealth of this country, that people can have the confidence that when they go and try to avail themselves of the services that they're entitled to, that they can have an expectation that they're going to come and be delivered in an honest fashion. So what I say to my fellow citizens is, we are here and we're going to continue working. You know, you've probably heard me say before, these cases have gotten harder with some of the court rulings that we've seen in the U.S. Supreme Court. Believe it or not, U.S. Supreme Court rulings trickle down to us in little old Middle District of Pennsylvania, and we have to deal with them. And frankly, it's made these cases harder. All that I've seen in reaction to that is a redoubling of efforts by the FBI and the great people in my office to try to make these cases. So we're going to continue doing the job.
City council is now tasked with appointing the mayor. A message for them as they go through that process and how the city can move forward.
I'd like to think I've already delivered that.
With the amount of time this investigation went on, with all the evidence, with the guilty plea, what are your thoughts and what would the decision to release him today? Seems like a lot of questions that still need to be answered. I'm just asking, he's out, right?
Right. Sure. Well,
Why?
that's.
What do we have to gain? I mean, really, does he deserve that? Do you think? And what are your thoughts on that?
Well, that's fairly standard for someone with his prior record and the charges he's facing. I mean, generally, especially in the federal system, people are only getting held if they're a flight risk or they're violent criminals. So, while we might have different thoughts about that, that's generally how a case like this is going to go in the federal system. Yes, ma'am.
You alluded earlier to the IRS. Did you check all his tax returns to make sure he reported that income and paid his taxes?
Well, ma'am, I can't comment on specifics of the investigation, but the IRS has assisted us in this investigation.
I hope they get every penny due.
So some vendors.
We'll deliver that message.
Some vendors cooperate with the investigation, but there are others who did not. You're kind of painting the vendors as victims of this predatory administration. Aren't there some who are actually part of the problem? What you're actually saying?
Sure, and those are the things that we have to ferret out as part of the investigation, but I think it's fair to say that people haven't been beating our door down to provide information. So we've had to go to them. And when we've gotten to folks who've had business with the city, I think we can characterize people as having been cooperative.
We talked right about cooperative in a certain sentence or a sentence recommendation.
So I can't comment on negotiations, but there is no agreement whatsoever
So you gave him nothing
on any kind of sentence.
I'm trying to get a sense of what he got.
So,
in exchange
so
for his plea.
there's a possibility in the federal system, regardless of what we offer, that a person can receive some credit for cooperation and acceptance of responsibility. And I won't get too complicated with it, but it provides a little bit of reduction if that person accepts responsibility. And so that possibility is out there, but that will be there in any guilty plea.
Does cooperation tie into that acceptance of responsibility? And I mean, in the sense that you said that this is an ongoing investigation, is he assisting in that ongoing investigation?
I don't want to comment on those specifics, but the only agreement in our plea agreement is those 3 levels for acceptance of responsibility. That's it. Yes, ma'am.
Would this indictment cause other people who came and got the same treatment but walked away a basis to sue the city because they?
I think that's a great question, but I don't think that's a question for the U.S. Attorney. That's fine. Go ahead.
Can you define an unindicted co-conspirator? Because of the indictment, it seems to me that there's an unindicted co-conspirator still working at City Hall.
Well, I don't want to get into those specifics because, as I said,
Just a definition of an unindicted co-conspirator.
Again, well, I don't know that there's a specific legal definition of it. People might have different definitions of things. You know, people might. I've talked for years about there's no specific definition of suspect or person of interest. I understand where you're going with the question, and what I indicated in response to an earlier question is, we, as part of our investigation, have to make a determination of people that we know took action in this case, whether they shared a criminal intent with the folks who were committing crimes, or whether they were doing it because they were told or it was part of their job. So I understand where you're going, I just don't think we're prepared to say that at this point.
The question is, then why would you list him as an unindicted co-conspirator, or her, as an unindicted co-conspirator?
Well, because when people take action in concert, that's a conspiracy.
Gotcha.
How can we get to a point, city residents get to a point where we have confidence in government again? As you said, we've been here over and over again.
Right. I would hope that people take some heart, at least, in the fact that the United States Attorney's Office continues to go after these cases, to put in the time, along with the FBI and the state police and our local law enforcement partners, to spend the time to do these cases. You know, believe me, I learned about this case on my second day on the job. When I came here to visit this office for the first time, and I'm here generally once a week, unless I'm doing something else. I had a lengthy meeting with Bill Vigrio's predecessor, and we talked about this case. There's great work that's been done. There was a search warrant done in January, and I haven't been asking about it every day, but I've certainly been asking about it every week since then. Because certainly there's pressure when you have somebody, but that's a fact of life for us when we're doing complicated investigations. There are people that we know are out there committing crimes, and sometimes you have to let that go a little bit in order to build the case. But what I would say to the public again is, as much as you may be discouraged, you have people here who are in it for the right reasons, doing it for the right reasons, and willing to act. So just because you don't see it, doesn't mean it's not going on. Maybe one more?
Where was the beach house and how many times did you go?
So I don't think that was put on the record today, so I can't comment on that. All right, thank you very much.